He takes over the UNC program after multiple overtures. Originally, when Dean Smith retired, they wanted Roy Williams because Roy was a former longtime assistant under Dean Smith and had UNC running in his blood. And he said no. The first time he said no. The second time, after Matt Doherty was fired, he eventually said yes. And that big turnaround after that game, no, I'm not going to UNC. Stop asking me about this. And then yes, I'm going to UNC. Roy Williams had already won big games. He was already a very established elite coach. And then Roy went to Chapel Hill and immediately paid dividends. In year number 2, had already won a national championship in 2005, had then added on 2 more championships, won a couple of years ago in 2017, had lost one on the buzzer beater to Villanova as well. So he won 3 national championships at UNC and was within an eyelash of winning a 4th. Roy Williams was an elite head coach and an elite recruiter. Gary Parrish had such a good quote yesterday from Roy Williams talking about the retirement of the legend. And he said that Roy, after winning multiple national championships, could have kind of put it on cruise control. And yet here was Gary Parrish seeing him at a grassroots event recruiting high school players. And Gary went up to him and said, Roy, why are you here? You don't have to be here. And Roy said, Gary, I know I can win with great players. What I don't know is whether I could win with anything other than great players. And I don't ever want to find out. In other words, the only way I know I can win is if I get the elite talent. And the only way I get the elite talent is by the grind. Now, I have not always been a Roy Williams fan. I think Roy has put on an inauthentic persona. That old dadgummit it's fakery. Roy Williams isn't dadgummit. Roy Williams played the dadgummit card. Never going to curse. Aw, shucks, all of this, even though he was a cutthroat, cursing SOB when it needed to be. But in front of the cameras, it was dadgummit, spinning yarns. And I never liked that inauthenticity about Roy. Roy would lecture you if you criticized him. He always had an answer for the critics, but then tried to give off this, oh, I'm just a good old boy from North Carolina vibe, which I always thought was very fake. But I will tell you this. The guy was a masterful coach. Because while we think of North Carolina today as almost automatic Final Fours and automatic national championships, Dean Smith was not automatic in terms of winning those national championships. And I think that's one thing that is hard to wrap your mind around. Dean Smith is the titan of all titans. Dean Smith is right behind John Wooden as the most appreciated, respected, adored head coach in college basketball history. But at the end of the day, Roy won more national championships than Dean Smith did at UNC. Dean was there for 36 years. And through the 60s, the 70s, and the 80s, he was in the Final Four and in the NCAA tournament constantly. But Dean Smith took over in 1962 and didn't win his first title until 1982. That was the James Worthy, Michael Jordan team, and Michael Jordan shot. It was 20 years it took him to win that first title. It took Roy 2. And Roy did it definitely in a more hyper-competitive era. When Dean was coaching UNC, yes, there was UCLA, but there was like 4 programs that could win a national championship. By the time Roy took over, there was 20 championship potential teams. It took Dean 20 to get his first, and he ended up winning 2. And that was over 35 years. In less than 20 years at Chapel Hill, Roy won more, 3 of them. Roy was a phenomenal coach, and Roy was a phenomenal recruiter. Now, UNC recruits itself, no doubt about it. UNC's tradition, its banners, its NBA players, the fact that it has a Dean Dome and it has a Michael Jordan shot means it's pretty easy to get a kid on campus, look up and say, yeah, I want to play here. It plays the ACC. It plays Duke twice a year. It wins national championships, goes to Final Fours, wins ACC championships, and when you get all of those fans inside the Dean Dome and have had a chance to go see a game at the Dean Dome, and you see all of that Carolina blue, it's mesmerizing. Charter flights and great assistant coaches and deep pockets, easy to get kids there. But Roy also didn't take days off. He didn't. And that was that anecdote from Gary Parrish. Now, there was also the scandal, the academic scandal at UNC, that Roy Williams will insist until the day he dies he knew nothing about. He had no idea there were clown fake courses that his kids were taking to stay eligible. He wouldn't really address it, scoffed at the criticism. How could I have possibly known that? It's no big deal. It's just junk. And again, that always felt very inauthentic. That Roy, what does it matter? What are you guys digging around for? What do you care? I'm not even going to address that. Again, there was a very difficult and complicated reality about Roy. Great coach, great recruiter, obviously was a big-time winner, but would choose what he wanted to address, when he wanted to address them, and would sometimes put up a front. And would create controversies where there really wasn't any. The tempest in a teapot type of thing where you knew he was just distracting from what was really going on because there were struggles with his program. I mean, last year, the season was short-circuited because of COVID, but that was a disastrous year for him, an absolutely disastrous year. And this year, he made the tournament, but was a 9 seed and got waxed by Wisconsin in the first round. I think Roy at 70 years old sensed a couple of things. He sensed perhaps his control slipping over winning, that he wasn't getting the results that he once did. The last 2 years were not very UNC-esque. And 2, the game was changing. I mean, now you've got free agency in college basketball. This week with the transfer portal, guys are just entering the transfer portal. Yep, let me see what's out there. I'm outie. It's free agency. And once we get to a point where you're not going to have to sit out for your first transfer a year, it's going to be even more. And once we get name, image, likeness, where schools will have to find ways to allow players to be paid on the side for sponsorships and navigate that, that's a different bit. And you're no longer going to have one and dones at some point. It's going to be kids from high school straight to the NBA or straight to the G League. I think Roy saw the writing on the wall, that already his effectiveness was slipping and that college basketball was going to undergo a pretty major sea change here. So at 70, I'm heading out. And I think it's good timing for him. I think it's really good timing because he leaves only a couple of years removed from his national championship. He leaves, though, after recognizing that he did not leave on top, so there's not the wanting of, oh, we could have kept that thing going and going and going. And today, a college basketball coach has to not only win over a high school basketball player to get him to come, but then has to win over that high school basketball player when he's a college basketball player every single day as well. He has to consider how to keep that kid engaged and sold on the program and the direction and his role on the team without him leaving, because soon there's going to be a lot of reasons to leave and a lot of ease in which to leave. Do you have the energy at 70? It's what makes what Jim Boeheim is doing even more remarkable. I mean, Jim has been doing this since the mid-'70s at the same school. How he still has the energy to do all of that, I don't know. Sometimes I think he doesn't. That the coaching every single day is kind of a foot off the pedal until March, and the recruiting is done mostly by his assistant coaches until he has to close. And if those kids want to come and play, great. If they want to leave for the NBA, who cares? And if they want to leave for a different school, whatever. That's how I kind of think Boeheim stays energized enough to keep doing this into his mid-70s. I mean, also he has a kid on the team. But Roy's at 70 and said, I'm good. And I think he leaves with a pretty remarkable legacy of somehow following Dean, and will never be Dean Smith. He'll never be beloved like that. But actually somehow being more successful.